Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm chatting with Christian Kargl Simard from Adventus Mining. Now, I find Adventus really interesting from an investment standpoint because Adventus represents what could be the world's next major copper mine. The company just completed their final consultation phase of their environmental consultation process for the Domo project. I discussed with Christian what the next steps are now that the company's getting so close to the finish line of production. We also get into the lack of love in the junior mining space and how the junior markets seem to be missing out on a company that could be hitting production relatively soon, and what it's going to take in order for the company to receive that love from the investment community. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Christian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Nice to be here. Happy New Year.
So we had you back on when your merger or proposed merger was announced with Luminex. Now, I thought it would be good to step back first before we get into your recent news, where we can discuss the merger high level, what it kind of looks like. There's an $18 million financing, which my understanding is that has effectively closed, but the merger is still depending on a vote. So if you can maybe give us a little bit of an update on where the proposed merger with Luminex stands, and also just a quick little overview of what the company kind of looks like from a cash standpoint and an asset standpoint, should the merger go through.
Yeah, that sounds good. So transaction was announced November 21st. Both parties very motivated to conclude this transaction, get on with life. Luminex has a shareholder vote set for January the 19th. Adventus does not need a shareholder vote. There was lockup of about 23% of the shares of Luminex to support the transaction. So I think it's more of a non-event. And then the transaction closes the week after. So say by the 26th of January. When the transaction closes, make it simple, that 18 million US, which is sitting in escrow, gets released to us, and off we go. Main reasons for the transaction were, in no particular order, relevancy. Take a company that was a 50 and a 30 million market cap company, raise a bunch of money, and now we're a 100 plus million market cap company. Very important in this difficult overall market that we're in, although greener shoots look like they're starting to show. Secondly was being able to raise this critical capital to get us through the permitting process to allow to start construction in Q2 of this year in a very difficult market. And we ended up doing this with long-term investors and get the amount of money we needed to get to where we need to get to. The third thing is consolidating the Ecuadorian landscape for copper gold exploration. We're now the second largest concession holder in the country for copper and gold exploration projects. We have the next mine to be built in country. All of this is meant to strengthen our abilities to build El Domo as the next copper mine globally, but also the next major mine in Ecuador, but also build a pipeline of projects behind it from an exploration perspective to be the second, third, fourth mine. This means we get to construct a mine with multiple exploration programs underway being funded by third parties that gives our shareholders an extra chance or 2 or 3 chances to make a new discovery. And Luminex brings to Adventus a huge resource base. 8 million ounces of primarily gold gives us huge leverage to the gold price. So if we see something like $3,000 gold sometime in the foreseeable future, that's over $1 billion NPV added to the net asset value of the company. So those are the key aspects to it. Very good integration in terms of working together to get this transaction done. And come January 26th, launch into pre-planning for construction.
Okay, so let's get into the recent news. You guys recently announced that the Ministry of Environment, Water, and Ecological Transition of Ecuador has completed the final consultation phase of the environmental consultation process for El Domo. What color can you give us on this completion of the final consultation and what it means for Adventus?
Well, it was a nice Christmas present. At the end of 2022, we received the investment protection agreement from the government of Ecuador. I think it was on December 22nd we received it. This time we received that news, or that happened a week before Christmas, but right after was when the government published the final results. We're one of the first projects in Ecuador history to go through a new revised consultation process with their communities. And the last meeting, which is what occurred a few weeks ago, includes a non-binding vote, which is meant to be for the individuals in the direct area of influence. But there's no restrictions on anybody in Ecuador voting. Anybody that has some kind of human rights angle can vote. We got very good turnout, and the non-binding vote went 98% in favor of supporting us to build this mine. So this was after the government went in July with 2 weeks of continuous information sessions with all these communities, saying what this is all about, what jobs are going to be created, but also what the footprint looks like, how they're going to deal with water, how they're going to deal with flora and fauna, all those kind of things. Had a chance to get questions and concerns aired to the government. And then the government took that all into account, made some modifications to the final environmental impact assessment, presented the final study there a few weeks ago, and then there was the vote. With such a positive vote, now the government can get on with the final administrative steps to approve the permit and make it law, which we expect to happen here in the next month or so.
Okay, so if I'm an investor watching this, what are sort of the next big steps now that we've gone through the final consultation? What are the next big steps that I should be watching until you guys get to the point where we see that you're producing copper?
I saw a very interesting analysis the other day on the length of time it takes to take a new discovery in mining to start a construction and production. Longer for base metal or copper mines than gold mines, but it's now on average close to 15 years take you to construction stage, and then 2 years to construct. I think it was 2.3 years to construct. So this is huge. This means we're at that approximately 15-year mark for an average copper development project. We've spent collectively of all the stakeholders in this project, $85 million US to get here. It's like equivalent to approving a new drug by the FDA, and then you finally can start manufacturing it, commercializing it, and then selling it. So we're kind of at that stage, the FDA drug approval stage. Our construction team is in place. Our detailed engineering is basically done. We can start construction after the rainy season in April. We have, as part of the $18 million we raised, funds to start those construction works in Q2 of this year. And we would be the next new copper mine to be built in the world.
The last time you were on, we discussed the Pierre-Lassonde curve. And now, if I'm an investor watching and I see an interview like this, one of the first things I'm going to be thinking is, okay, you guys are nearly at the point of production, but what could happen between then and now that's going to cost the company more money? How much more capital are they really going to need? I know you guys are in, as I mentioned earlier, in the process of finishing up, or you have closed an $18 million financing. I'm not sure what the full consolidated balance sheet is going to look like, but are you guys at the point where you just about have all the firepower you need to begin to actually start producing copper?
Yeah, we have arranged $240 million US of funding for the project. That's not all the money we need. There is a gap. Most of it we think we can bridge through non-equity funding, but this project has had a lot of people been looking at it. A lot of people have gone to see it. A lot of people watching the progress, but partly to see how Ecuador continues to evolve as a mining country, partly because it's the next copper mine to be built, but also because it's super economic. I would expect a bunch of calls coming in from various investors once this environmental permit gets approved. We do not have a corporate on our register, like a mining company. Most single asset developers like this, doesn't matter the commodity, have one, especially at this stage. So I think that a lot of the remaining capital, and we're talking, call it 50 million plus or minus, a lot of that remaining capital can come in through an investment by a corporate, let's say, that's substantial premium. That would be a huge validation of what we're trying to do. We do have additional credit capacity in the project as well. We also may be just acquired outright or merged with another producer as their kind of development project. So when I look at the next 6 months, I see permits, call it by February. I see a big push from our construction team on preparation for construction at Q2, but equally a big push on wrapping that last financing together, which is typically the easiest to do. That last money in before you start construction, when you have the permits, that money is normally there. And I'm trying to do the best, I'm trying to put together the best package to reduce equity dilution for our shareholders that have been there for many, many years. Then it's a 2-year build and production, call it January 2026.
Do you think that there's a little bit of a problem in the junior markets right now, that there's been so few companies actually get to the production stage that we've kind of lost the imagination of the retail investor? Because, I mean, this is pretty big news. Now, you did announce it a couple days after Christmas, and it feels like the market hasn't really caught on, and perhaps it's just been a rough couple of years in the junior markets. And I don't want to turn this into a negative story about what's happening in the broader junior markets, but it feels like you guys have so much momentum going for you, and the markets just haven't quite figured it out yet. Do you think that that is a symptom of just a lack of winners in the junior markets? And do you think that if you guys can successfully get to the point where you are producing and still public and haven't done a massive amount of dilution to get there, that you guys will be the trailblazer for other companies that are in a similar situation?
That's a jam-packed question there. Yeah, I think we've lost in the bulk of the investors in the junior mining space for lots of reasons. I think we talked about that maybe last time on our call. A lot of it has to do with what I was mentioning before, 15 years to move an asset along to potential construction and production. In the last 10 years, how most investors, speculative investors, and we're definitely a speculative investment, but how most of them made their money hasn't been on 10-year investments. It has been on kind of short-lived, exciting fads of some sort. We're not out of the woods yet. Like, we don't have that final permit. There could always be an appeal. There is some additional financing ahead. Is 2024 going to be a year where copper rips? Is it going to be flat? I mean, there's lots of uncertainty. But the scarcity value of what we're talking about is immense. And one day the light bulb, for lack of a better word, is going to flip or turn on, and this thing is going to, double, triple pretty quickly. Is that when we get the permits and a strategic investor puts in the last money we need in at a 40% premium? Is it when we start construction and copper rips to $6 and everyone's saying, what's the next one to get built? I don't know what it is, but we're certainly quite close to it. And there is nothing in the public markets globally that has this kind of story of construction of a new copper mine, the highest grade undeveloped copper mine in the world right now, production in 2 years. The closest to it are probably 2 years behind us. And so that, I think, will capture some people's imagination here in due course. I think there's quite a few investors that are sitting on the sidelines. They're waiting for that right moment to enter. I'm thinking that environmental approval is probably a big one for many investors. Over the weekend, there was a fairly known mining blogger who was pretty hard on mining companies. He came out for the first time with a positive recommendation for Adventus. And he indicated that this stock could really run here over the next couple of months with that environmental approval.
Well, Christian, congratulations on the recent progress. I look forward to seeing how the environmental permit works out. And please keep coming back on here in the future and updating us. I think this is one of the most exciting stories in the Canadian junior markets, and we're grateful to have you on here.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comments section. Thanks, everyone.